Welcome to another Lunchtime Live. Today we're going to have a conscious conversation, which means we're just going to be here together. Hello, Beth. How are you doing today? Julie, Debbie. So glad that you decided to have lunch here today. Lisa, Kay, hey Kay, Hutchinson, Mel, lovingly, and oh shoot, Smoozy. Hello everybody. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining me for lunch. I hope you're all having something wonderful for lunch today. Come on then, or go do something. We have Lovey here for lunch today. What is the purpose of a conscious conversation? Why do we do this? And thank you so much, Ruben. Great to be here. Yes, I'm glad that you are here. What are we doing here? What is this that we are doing? Mel said hi, Lovey. She's gone on now. We are here for the purpose of turning our focus, capturing our focus and our attention away from that voice in the head and all the drama that it creates in our life, and putting that focus and attention on something that is pointing towards consciousness. And what is that? What is consciousness? What does that even mean? And for me, I like to define it as the ability to choose. You're aware of what's going on enough within you. You are aware that you are not that voice in the head that causes so much drama, so many problems. It argues, it tells you horrible things about people, it tells you horrible things about yourself. It creates story after story after story. Creates so much suffering and so much drama and so much misery. And you're becoming conscious, aware of the fact that that voice is not you. That is not who you are. But instead, you are a what? You're a what standing over here looking at this thing, creating so much talking all the time, so much conversation. And so you're growing in the consciousness, and you're here watching me right now talking about consciousness to help fuel you, to fuel that consciousness as the observer. Yes, Trish, as that observer of this voice, so that you have power in those moments when it's wanting to create emotional upset in you. It's wanting you to say certain things to certain people. It's wanting you to be unkind. It's wanting you to yell. It's wanting you to scream. It's wanting you to fight. It's wanting you to do all these things. Because you've listened to things like this and you've become aware of what it does, why it does it, when it does it, how it does it, you know it. You're getting to understand that you are not it, and that you have a choice of listening to what it says, believing and buying into its story, letting it possess you, letting it stir up emotion in you, and then you act off of that emotion. You're learning all about that. And your practice is life. Right now, in this moment, there's probably not a lot of practice you're doing. You're learning about it. You're sitting here in a space where someone is talking and pointing you in the direction of consciousness and what it is and what you really are. They're telling you what you really are, which is giving you power to stand over here and look at this thing like, oh, that thought is not me. That is not my thought just because it wraps it up in the word I think, I feel, I am this or I am that. That's not me. So you're getting stronger in standing over here in what you are, which means you're not as reactive. you engage less and less and less with this thing. I had to, one of my, all of my clients are my favorite clients, but one that I worked with for years, and she's been working on her consciousness practice for a very long time. And she was able to, she had a very strong drama queen in her head, and it had, it was like all of most of ours that we are hearing in various degrees have this right and wrong and treating fair and unfair and doormat and you're not going to treat me like I'm going to protect my. She had a very strong one of those. And she was dealing with a visitor at her home who was living, she's also living very deeply within that drama, possessed by her drama queen. So she wasn't conscious. She wasn't aware that she had a choice to behave in a certain way. She was totally under the control of the drama queen that she is listening to, just like we're all listening to a drama queen or drama king in our head. So she was very tied up in that. There was no space. There was no space to refocus and be like, oh, that's not me. I have a choice here. I don't have to listen to what that thing says and say those things and think those things and dwell in those things and suffer with those things. She didn't have that. But my client did. And she said that there was an event that happened and she needed some help. She asked for the help. And this person, whose family, made up excuses. Oh, I didn't see your text, or I didn't know you had asked that, or I didn't. And so her drama queen went into this whole dialogue of, I do all this stuff for her, and she never does anything for me. And, the whole, we've all heard it, right? Like, oh, that's unfair, and she's being this and that. And so all the judgment, all the words of the drama queen about. And then she was listening to it. And she bought it, like she agreed. What does that mean, to buy into the story that the voice in your head is telling? You agree with it. You're like, yeah, yeah, that's true. You buy that story. And as soon as you agree with it and say, yes, here comes the emotions. Now it's got the power to stir up the emotions. And so that type of dialogue would stir up anger. And she said, I could feel it. I could feel the anger. And she came home. She finally came in and came home. She was visiting with her, and she was hosting her in her home very kindly. And she came in, and she said, I could just feel the anger just fuming. And she said, and I got up the next morning. I was sitting at the table, and she came in for breakfast. And I realized in that moment, I have a choice. So there it was. There was a little space there. I have a choice. She's going to be here another 2 or 3 days, okay? I have a choice right here and right now. I can be conscious, step away from everything that the drama queen in my head is telling me I should do and should say, because I know if I do that, it's going to be 2 or 3 days of hell on earth, right? Not just, I'll stir up, if I say those things, I'm going to be stirring up her drama queen, and then it's just going to be two drama queens going at it. So what she was able to do was detach from the whole dialogue of right and wrong. She should have done this, and she should have done that, and she didn't. And she was able to say, even though I agree with that story, and listening to that story and acting off of that story and reacting off of that story is not worth the suffering that it's going to cause me, and then cause me to have to live with on the outside of me. Now I'll be dealing with not only this drama queen that's driving me nuts in my head, creating so much anger in my body, but now then I'll have to deal with an ego that stirred up a drama queen on the outside of me that's attacking. And she had enough space and enough consciousness to say, I'm going to choose not to do that. It took everything within her, and she said it felt like a lie. And I didn't want to do it. And it took everything in me to say these words. But she said, Lord, I get chills thinking about the power of what she did. The guest sat down at her table, her family member, and she said, I just wanted to say, I'm really sorry for what I said last night when you got home, because they did have a little bit of an interaction. Not a big one, but a little bit. And she did speak from those ego words. She said, I want to say I'm sorry for that. And it was unfair of me to expect those things of you. And she said, oh, it was tough. It was tough to say. But she was choosing her experience, what she wanted to experience over the next couple of days. So she did a very powerful, that's not a weakling. That's not a doormat. That's not someone who's weak and just lets people... That's not that. That's the story the drama queen will tell you. The strength that it takes to have a conscious action in the face of a deeply unconscious person. It takes a tremendous amount of strength. And so what she did in that, then, instead of her ego trying to teach this person that they should think like this and be like this and be more kind and be more helpful and be more compassionate and all these things, if she would have tried to do it the way the ego said, a wall would have went up, like just resistance, and now she wouldn't have heard her anyway. But because she just accepted what had happened. She apologized for speaking from her ego, even though I'm sure her ego was in her head saying, well, I had every right to say this and that and this and that because she didn't do. She overrode that. She put that dog on the leash and she said, we're not going through this. I know where this leads. I've been down this road before. I've listened to you before and did what you said before. And I've seen how it ends up. And I see how long it's drawn out. And I see the suffering it causes. So in this moment, I'm going to choose differently. I'm going to choose to act consciously, which is unconditionally loving. A conscious action. You can't have a conscious action without the energy of life flowing through and out of you onto that person. It's not possible. Because what consciousness is and awareness, what you are, is unconditional love. I keep talking to you about what you are, not who you are. So what you are, when you actually stand in the energy of what you are, like my client did, she stood there. It was hard. It was challenging, but she stood there, unconditionally loving, not caring what this person did when they were unconscious, how they treated her, the unkindness that came out, the selfishness, the egoic self-centeredness. I don't care that you did all those things. I'm going to treat you with kindness right now, even though it's killing my ego. It's diminishing my ego. I'm sure her drama queen was mortified that she behaved in the way that she did because it wasn't defended in that moment at all. Actually, it was made to look ridiculous. So this is the practice. She practiced it. She's been listening and listening and listening and listening. I've never met anybody so committed and determined to get this as her. Never. Even myself. Like I'm predetermined. But she, hours and hours and hours. She wants to be able to be what she is, which is unconditionally loving. So what happens to an unconscious person when you're able to be unconditionally loving. You're able to act out of consciousness and be what you are, and allow them. Unconditional means I don't care what you do or don't do. I don't care how you treat me, my ego. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to what I am. I'm going to be kind and loving and compassionate to you anyway. Maybe even more so, because I recognize unconsciousness. I've lived with unconsciousness. So if anybody needs to see this side of me, it would be my enemy. It would be the one who mistreats me. It would be the one who mistreats the ego and everything it says it should be treated as. So she did it. And I said, I want you to realize the power of what you did. It'll be easier to do next time. Every time you're able to do it, you cannot shine the light of, I've heard Eckhart say this many times, you cannot shine the light of awareness on something, which is what she did. She stood in her what, not her who. She stood in her what, which is what she is unconditional love, the energy of life itself. She stood there. You cannot shine the light of awareness on anything and there not be a transformation. Not just within herself and her ability to not do what her ego was demanding that she do in that moment, but in the ego of the other person sitting in that with her. So then that allowed space. She wasn't shoving how this person should act down their throat, which would create a wall. She instead opened a field of unconditional love for this unconsciousness to stand inside of. Like, oh. And I wanted her to realize that we all, even when we act out of our ego, deep down inside, we know when we've been a jerk. We know it. We may not want to admit it. Our mind may immediately wrap up a story and a bunch of excuses of why we did what we did to protect itself. But we know when we've done it. We know. And we will admit it to ourselves somewhere deep inside that, yeah, that was kind of selfish. Yeah, I mean, really, how much energy would it have taken for me to stop by the pharmacy? For my sick aunt who has been sick for weeks, who it's difficult to drive where she lives. How difficult might that have been? Not really, I was just too selfish to do it. We all know when we've been a jerk. Deep down inside. Now, we may not, entertain that story for long because it's not a very feel-good story for our ego, is it? So it'll make, oh no, you were busy, you didn't know what pharmacy she used, you didn't know how to do it. We've all done that stuff. So instead, she opened this field of unconditional love, which then made that unconscious action, made that little thing in her, that little thing in all of us that knows when it's been a jerk. It kind of pushed all of the dialogue out of the way, all the excuses that the ego was making for her behaviors and actions. It pushed all that out of the way, and it was standing there alone, like, oh God, I really was a jerk. Oh, maybe I was. And even if she doesn't admit it in that moment, maybe her ego's like, yeah, she should apologize. She shouldn't have said those horrible things to you last night or whatever. Whatever the dialogue is, it doesn't matter. That was planted in there. That consciousness got through. And the consciousness will grow her little spark in there that knows. Her little spark in there that's like, I'm so wrapped up in my ego that I just do things that are selfish and unkind. And it gave space for something like that to come in and grow it. A likeness. Like, oh, I see this. Oh, thank you. I don't know what the first, I don't have my glasses on, but thank you for saying that. It's this little spark inside. My friend, my client, was a big spark, and she just stood there in it as hard as it was. And then that recognized itself. I'm like, oh, yeah. And it's not about feeling guilt. It's about change. It's about transformation. It's about moving towards a different way of being. Moving out of this is all about me and my life and my personal self, to moving out of that and say, this is an us experience. Actually, it's just an experience of one, but I won't go down that rabbit hole. Instead of there's a you and there's a you and there's a me and there's a, and I really, protecting me is the biggest, that's the mental plane experience that we're all starting to move out of. I had a question from another one. Oh, you're all my favorites, but another one of you that was asking about people getting upset because you're not maybe attending things or showing up to things or saying yes to invites when you are doing your self-work. I think she called it self-care, but we'll call it self-work. Meaning she is seeing this. She knows it's a challenge. And she's doing her best to control this, but she knows there are some really strong people around her who are in deep unconsciousness that she just can't resist. And, the pull into that unconsciousness is so strong that she gets sucked into hers, and she starts saying things and acting in different ways or feeling certain things, and she's aware of that. So she's saying no to things. She's saying no to these interactions, and that's okay. That's okay. You know you're in this thing that's challenging you. You can go into that experience, or you can choose not to go into this. It's all about choice. You have a choice now. How fast you want to. Sometimes those experiences can be like running a marathon, and you get so much, you go into deep pain and unconsciousness with them, but then when you separate from that person, you come back into consciousness, you've gathered a bunch of information. You've gathered a bunch of data maybe that you didn't have, that now you can see about yourself. Oh yeah, and this is what my mind said when all that was happening, and I couldn't resist that, and so now I know that, and so now next time that won't happen. So you can use it as that, or you can say, I'm going to ease into this, and I know with this person there's something there, a trigger there, that my ego, I just can't keep that dog on the leash. I just can't. It just gets so wound up, and that's okay too. You can choose to not go into those experiences, and it's fine. But what her question was when they get upset with you, and then they want to guilt you for not being with them. And the answer there is just to see what you're dealing with is unconsciousness. A conscious person, first of all, you probably wouldn't be avoiding in the first place, but a conscious person wouldn't expect your time and energy. The ego, or the drama king or drama queen, that part of you always wants to be served. And it wants what it wants when it wants it, and expects what it expects, and expects you to be around when it wants you to be around, and it expects you to make it feel a certain way, and expects, if you're in this box that I call a friend, and all the expectations I have on a friend, you're going to be here when I ask you to be here because I'd be here for you. That is the ego. That's the drama queen. And all of its expectations, that's unconsciousness. That's condition-based. If you do this, then I do this. Yes, Beth, yes. If you meet my needs, if you make me feel a certain way, if you show up when I want you to, if you use your energy in the way that I want you to, when I want you to, that's a queen. That's a demanding entity that we all can hear in our heads. That's expecting and wanting all that. So that would get upset with someone if they said, I'm going to choose to, I think I can have this experience right now. Like I'm kind of really, already dealing with this drama queen I've got speaking in my head, and one more, it would just tip the scales too much, and I might do and say some things that I really wouldn't want to and feel bad about. So I think a conscious choice in my practice would be I'm going to skip it this time. And then their ego or their drama queen's going to get mad about that, and that's okay. Just as when your own voice in your head gets mad when you don't do what it says, you accept that. Let it be mad. And it'll say, no, but you should, if you were a this and if you were a that, and it'll throw out all these psychological labels. If you were a this and you were a that, you would act this way and this way and this way. How can you let them treat you this way? You should block them. You should never talk. It'll give you all kinds of actions and suggestions of what you should do. And if you just sit there and observe it, there's that mad drama queen. There's mad. She's got mad going on, or she's trying to have an energy of mad going on in me, but I'm just watching it. I'm not agreeing with her. I'm not agreeing with her. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not doing anything but just watching her. I'm definitely not going to do the action she's telling me to do. I'm just going to sit, no matter how hard it is to, I really want to do what she's telling me to do, just like my client did. She's like, I really want to tell her off this morning, but I'm not going to. I'm making a conscious choice to be unconditionally loving, which is what I am. So let her be mad. Let her be mad. And then what will happen, let's go down the road with this a little bit. That person, that friend, who you may actually value and love as a friend, they're mad now. And your drama queen says, it's like, oh, I can scare her now. I'll use fear now. Oh my God, she's mad at me. She's mad at me, and she's going to tell so-and-so not to be friends. And then, take it down the road of like, now I'm going to be alone, and they're going to think this and that about me, and they're going to think I'm a this, and they're going to think I'm a that. And there, that fragile little drama queen, that fragile little ego is wanting you to take action out of fear to protect its identity of a good friend. And it'll suck you in that way. And then you're like, so even the avoiding the experience challenges your drama queen. You could have went and you could have had a different experience, but you're still getting the challenge. It's still happening, and it's okay. The challenge is not a bad thing. You get a lot of insight into what you still agree with, into the stories that you still buy into the stories that you still feel are so real. I watched a very interesting movie last night, and I think it was called The Wonder. It was on Netflix, and it's, how they have like the top picks or whatever. I think it was one of those. Anyway, it's a little odd, but there was this hint of trying to help you see consciousness. And one of the beginning lines that she said is, and just listen to the sentence, we are nothing without our stories. And when I heard it, I was like, yeah, that's exactly right. We realize the nothingness, we're just this field of unconditional love, we're just this void, this spaciousness, this openness, this field of love. Like, we're just this field of unconditional love. We're nothing with no labels on top of it. It's an energy. That's what you are. That's what I am. That's what's flowing. That's what's looking back at me right now. And I'm looking, it's just like a loop. Yeah, you're in a different form, but it's the same energy that is looking at you through these eyes that we call Angie. And if I could see you, I could see you. I could see the energy of what I am looking back at me. Nothing. We are nothing without our story. And who's the storyteller? Who makes it a personal story? Who spins the story? Who writes the script? Who makes up the drama? That takes you out of what you are and sucks you in to a personal me now that's a character in a story. Now, I'm Angie, and this is what matters. No, I'm the energy of unconditional love, what God is. I'm having an experience in this form. I'm having an experience in that tree. I'm having an experience in that grass. I'm having an experience in the form that's sitting here with me right now. I'm experiencing all kinds of different views and perspectives and interactions and challenges, and I'm having this magnificent, multifaceted experience through all these things. But the story grounds me, the story of Angie in the form of Angie, and the story that's been building since Angie stepped foot on, since she became the character of Angie. Like, it's been building and building, so now there's a history, and there's the past, and there's a what happened here and what happened there. And it's just the more this what gets entangled with that, the more it shrinks itself down. It's this massive thing. What you are is this massive thing, but the more you buy into it and the more you agree and you think it's so real and so serious, the more sucked down into this little personal experience that you're having, and the more you suffer, and the more dramatic it becomes, and the more painful it becomes, and it becomes so painful that you're like, what's really going on here? Like, really? That's really maybe far out there. But I'm talking about a different space that you are in right now, but may not realize it, because the storyteller, the ego, the drama king or drama queen, has you so entangled in this little personal me story. Think about this. Here's something, a deep thought for you to consider. I was thinking, I don't know why, but I get drawn to, every now and then, I get drawn to the story of Princess Diana. I don't know why. I didn't really have an interest or wasn't drawn to that when she was living, I don't think. But since she has been, out of that form, I don't know, something about it. I watch documentaries and I watch all kinds of things. Anyway, so think about this example. So we know that we have this egoic, storytelling, problem-making loudspeaker that we hear that says is us in our head, right? And what we have come to, what we're learning here is that if we agree with it and believe in the stories that it's telling, then it has the power to control us in this experience. It has the power to have us do all kinds of things that don't come from the field of what we are, which is unconditional love, but comes from fear, it comes from greed, it comes from need, it comes from desperation, it comes from, like, it gets us to do all kinds of things out into this world, right? So think about that, and the story, if everything's a story, that a story can only have power if power to control and have an impact in the world, if you believe it. So think about the story of actual kings and queens. So I love the analogy of a drama king or a drama queen, because it's just the nature of an ego. I am important, and I say what we do and what we don't do, and I control this situation and this world that is mine. I control that, says the drama king or queen. So when you look at what we've done, that's going on the inside of you. But look at how it's reflecting also in a story that's also going on the outside of you. If the collective memory was cleared by some odd event, and none of us remembered the story of kings and queens and the whole storyline of the royal family and how it went back from years, and then they were the king and they were the queen and they were all that was wiped out. And we woke up one morning and none of us had that belief, that story, that belief in that story, because the story was gone. King Charles would just be a man in a big old house. And everybody just, yeah, that's that man that lives in that house. And he would be like, well, wait a minute, like, you're supposed to be doing what I don't you know who I am, what I am, who I am more. Don't you know who I am? Meaning, don't you remember the story that we all made up to give me power and importance? Don't you remember that? And you're like, no, I have no clue what you're talking about. We're the same thing, are we not? Why would I be under your control? It doesn't compute. But because it's the politics, like, they only have power, and we only all obey and do what they say because we collectively have agreed in the story of their importance. And so, we have all these characters playing these roles. Okay, well, if you don't listen to the important one that we've made the president or the king or the queen in this story, if you don't do that, then, well, I've made importance out of me as the police officer, so I'll arrest you and I'll put you. It's just like, can you see, like, it's a story that only has power. We only play this game because we all believe in it, and we've all been believing in it for years. We made it up. So we operate out of that and off of that and do what it says. It's the same thing that happens inside of you. We all believe we bought it. We bit the apple. We're like, I need more than just this formless thing of unconditional love. I'm going to take on a character. So King Charles would just be, but because we bought the story, we believe in the story, now it has the power to control our reactions and our actions and behaviors. Same with some story that your mind tells you. If we buy it, if we agree with the story it's telling, no matter how ridiculous, you'll listen to me because I came from this person. I think you're just a man, but okay. But we buy it. Like, okay, well, everybody else is believing in that, so okay. All right, so it's a game. Anyway, did anybody have any questions? That was a little bit of a crazy tangent that may or may not have made sense, but it's something fun to think about. So we'll just be here. Best thinking. It's okay. Like if there's nothing, there's it's good to just be. It's good to just be together. The ego will be very uncomfortable with that because it says, "Oh, I better be saying something." And the ego could be saying, "I can't believe you just told that line of thought. That's crazy. Why would you explore that?" That's what it would say. Because it's true. it's when you step back from it and you get that perspective, it's like, wow. It happens on the inside of us, and it's also going on in our world, in the world, through politicians or through celebrities or whoever we all collectively have agreed a story about of importance. How do you recognize your mind's tricks to make you think the voice in your head is you? For example, the voice in my head likes to talk out loud as if it's me. Yes, Mel, it definitely does. I mean, not just yours, mine does too. The tricks. I think that when it says I, when it says me, when it says I think, I feel, I need, you find those key phrases where maybe it's been telling a story in the background, and maybe you've not really been conscious of it. Maybe you've didn't realize you were agreeing with it or buying into it, and you just thought those were your thoughts. And you don't catch it, and then there's an emotion stir up in you, and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on? Like, there was a story, there was a pain story, and either I thought I was the one telling it, so I was totally immersed in it. I had no space between me and it, and I didn't catch it, and that happens, and it's okay that happens. I didn't catch it that time, and now there's an emotion, and I feel that emotion. So I know that it knocked on the door, sold me something, and I was so distracted, I wasn't alert, I wasn't conscious to what it was doing, and I just got soaked right in, I just got absorbed right up in there, and now the energy's moving in my body. So I think it's learning. I think I would first try to look at the patterns of the stories that it tells to create the emotion. So once you notice that emotion, say, all right, let me go back. What was going on? What thoughts did I think were my thoughts? What was the storyline about that created this energy in my body? Oh, okay. So now you know, and you can write down the key words that it says. What am I going to do? How am I going to fix this? I need to figure this out. There's key words that it starts its sentences off with, usually. Does our inner child battle our ego, or are they one and the same? Yes, one and the same. So I would get to know, it's a hard leap to go from, oh, don't let this speak through me. I would start very basic of getting to know it really well. and getting to know what stories it tells, what channels you're tuned into, because all of ours tell different stories based, well, a lot of them are the same, but based off of what the life experience you're going through is. So you get to know if you're something so important and so, it needs this and it wants this and it doesn't like this, if all that's going on, then that's it. That's the drama king or queen. And if you're ever in doubt about you're about to speak something out, count to 5 and let the energy settle for a second. Ask yourself, am I in emotion right now? Am I in the emotion ocean about to say this? If you are, odds are what's about to come out of your mouth is going to be from your ego. If you're not, if you're just calm and present and you're aware of what your mind's saying, you're aware of what the other person's saying, and you open your mouth from that space, it's probably going to be a very conscious conversation that you're having. So it's your level of awareness when you're speaking, I guess, is the best answer. Where you are you like this? Totally possessed by it, meaning you're in the emotion ocean right now? Or is there space between, as in, like, I see it, and I see the stories it's telling, and I see what it's been talking about, and I see the emotion, like, I can see it. I'm backed up far enough to see it. Speak from that space. And if you're not, and you're in the presence of another person, you know you're not, you're aware, you've got enough awareness to know that you're in its grip, the less you say, the better. And you can even tell the person, look, I'm doing my best to deal with what's going on in my head, and I don't want to say hurtful or harmful things from this space. So, and you can have like key words that you give each other, like danger zone, or I'm, my dog's off the leash, or like, whatever it is. You can let them know that. But yes, Kay, it is the same thing. It is the ego and the inner child. When I was talking about the 5 inner children, basically I was breaking the ego up into 5 aspects that care about different things, that care about different topics. One that cares about your money, that gets all worked up about money. One that cares about relationship. One that cares about your home and where you live and the identity that it gets from that and what it's supposed to be and look like, or the family or whatever. The body, one that cares about a physical appearance, and it's, so it's just different. Let's see, home, work, money. Shoot, I forgot them. Home, work, money, body, relationships. So those are the 5. And so it's just all the ego. And it cares about different things, and it's wounded about different things, and it's been diminished in different areas, and it's, sometimes it may be inflated because everything's going really well in that topic. So it may have a big inflated ego of yay, I'm getting what I want. Or it may have a big inflated ego of I'm never getting what I want, a victimhood. Both are big egos. A lot of people have this misperception that a big ego is only the one that's getting what it wants. But you can have a massive ego that is totally in control of you, totally in power of you, of one that never gets what it wants. A lot of the empaths fall into that victim and the narcissist. Both are big egos. One just gets everything it wants, and one gets nothing it wants. Same thing. That's very helpful to recognize the pattern and triggers. You're very welcome. I have more of these talks. I do post them here on Instagram, and they're also on YouTube under a playlist called Keep Me Awake. If these help you, please, if you want to do this practice, if this is something that you're like, yes, knowing how to have a choice in the moment of not engaging in drama and conflict and being able to be, more in control of how I feel more often and not having to go into so much pain and depression and anxiety. If that interests you, which to me it just blows my mind that it wouldn't interest everybody, but it's where you are in your experience. If that interests you, feed that part of you that needs to get stronger every day. There is so much content out there to fuel the unconsciousness, to fuel the personal me. Even be very careful. A lot of the psychology and a lot of the language, it's to protect a personal me, which is just going to keep you held in that entrapment with a drama queen. And knowing those things about minds and how they work, it can actually be harmful to your ability to get out, because it's supporting, it's the right and the wrong of things, and it keeps you tangled up there with the mind in that mental space, and fuels that and feeds that. So be very careful, and you'll feel so empowered. That drama queen feels so empowered when someone understands it. Oh yes, let's talk about me more. Let's have, and I'm not knocking, I'm just saying, be careful, because even the content that's out there to help, the drama queen or king can feed off of it as, oh yes, now I can use this to prove my point, or I can use this to protect my fragile little self. Instead of coming away from all that, giving attention to the drama king or queen through countless hours of poring over, oh, what's this one doing and what's that one doing, why do they do this and why do that, and what are they thinking? It's like, leave that world. Don't feed it anymore. It's got enough. It's being fed so much, and it's so powerful, or it has so much control because people give it the power through belief, through believing what it's saying is true, through agreeing with it. Listen to things that are talking to you about what you are, and that's what the Keep Me Awake playlist is. It's totally free. Go to YouTube. There's like 17 or 18 videos on there now. Every day I do that. Every day I'm watching something that is talking about what I am as unconditional love. And nothing that is going to talk to me about the story of the personal me, or other people's stories of the personal me. There's plenty of those out there too. And they want you to believe in them, because that gives that ego more power. I hope this has helped you. I know some of these topics have been whatever they are, and that's okay. So thank you for joining me. And if you are doing the 30-day, we're on day 23 of becoming emotional movers, which means we're just setting the habit of releasing emotion with movement, noticing emotion in our body or noticing energy in our body, and using movement instead of food to release it. I lost 1 pound last week. Was totally not expecting that. Didn't change my diet. Didn't change my exercise. I don't have a diet or an exercise routine. I just was noticing energy in my body. That's it. Energy that needed released. And for me, the most part, it wasn't so much. I did have a couple of times where I bought a story and an emotion started and I would release it. But what I've noticed for the most part this week, that is between the time of 3 and 4 during the day, I don't know if it's something that hormonally happens in our bodies, if it's something that's collectively happening on the planet at that time, I don't know. But there is an energy that flows through in a wave. And it's like, almost like it's not panic, but it's like, oh, I better eat. It's like a frenzy of wanting to grab something to release this energy. And so I'm like, I'm prepared now for 3 and 4 o'clock. I notice, okay, is the energy going to be here today or no? And if it is, I go ahead and start moving. I'll set timer for 3 minutes and off I go. And now we're moving. And so just those simple things, I am eating less and moving more. I think I said that right. And my body has reacted to that. Now, of course, that's not the goal, but the goal is healthy emotional release and replacing the habit of eating for that release with the action of moving. So if you want to join us, you're not too late. All the posts are still on there. We're on day 23. You just subscribe here on Instagram and you can have access to all those and all of our little chat boxes that we talk about stuff in. And I will let you go. Thank you for joining me for lunch, and I'll see you here for the next Lunchtime Live. Oh, next Thursday's Thanksgiving, so have a happy Thanksgiving. Bye.